Welcome to another episode of
Oh, the Ray and Nev show. We're
Oh,
back.
the
It's
Ray and
good.
Nev Show. We're back. We're
Yeah.
absolutely back. Nev, it's an amazing. I mean, you guys don't see me on camera, but let me go ahead and pop in here real quick. How you doing, fellas? How you doing?
I'm
So
good. I'm good. Do you want
I,
to explain to the people why you're not here and why you're over there?
I had some schedule.
Put yourself on the screen. They're not going to be able to see you. They can hear you though.
Yeah, so I had some scheduling conflicts, so I ended up having to be here instead of there at the studio. But I wanted to make sure I got in on this episode, so I wanted to make sure that we did this episode because it's important. It's a great episode. You guys are in for a treat. So without further ado, let's continue with the episode. My question to you is: you have a gentleman sitting to your left on my screen, right? Probably on your screen,
Yeah.
but introduce the gentleman and let's talk about that.
So we have Mr. Edward Lee, and you do your introduction, man.
My name is Edward Lee, aka Listing Lee. I've been with La Rosa since 2017. Been pretty much at this office the entire time. Been able to grow my real estate career here and just continue to stay relevant in the game.
So I feel like I could have did a better introduction. So this is Listing Lee here right now, right? Coach, mentor, leader. What am I leaving out?
Broker associate.
Broker associate, broker Edward Lee right here.
Yeah.
So honestly, we're humbled to have you on the show. Thank you for
Thank you.
spending some time with us.
Hey,
Ray, do you
fun
want to
fact,
jump in?
Neville.
Yeah.
Yeah, fun fact. Before we actually had the Ray and Nev show, me and Edward Lee did a video. We were concerned about what OfferPad and what Open Door were
Open
doing, and we
door.
did a
Yeah.
review on them. And it's the most watched video on the executive group channel, guys. So with over 600 views. So just wanted to give you a shout out there. So we have Edward here, as well as you know him as Listing Lee. But what we know him at the office as is the king of door knocking, right?
Yes.
So, Ed, you've been door knocking for a while now. You have been able to build an amazing career on that. But
Yeah.
I want to say about a year ago, you decided to take a turn
Yes.
into door knocking for a purpose. Tell us a little bit about what that purpose is.
Well, it actually came from a meeting you pointed out, kind of where Orlando has a unique market because of the foreclosures that were happening here, and it was becoming more of an opportunity to go after new business. And at that point, my circle of influence was drying up. So I felt like, kind of going back where I really obtained these door knocking skills was my original Westgate venture. Because one day it got slow. We had to go knock on doors, and I was able to sell some people.
Westgate, the
Timeshare company.
Okay.
Yeah, so we didn't have any tours. So our manager made us go knock on people's doors, and I kind of got the niche of meeting, greeting people, getting to understand their needs pretty quickly. It was just a good source because I've never paid for leads since I've been a realtor. And what I've done is I've learned how to identify situations and understand how to make friends with the people
Mm-hmm.
and then offer a solution to their problem. So door knocking became a way of producing leads that I didn't have to pay for.
Yeah.
So I could go talk to these people that I know about the problem and offer a solution and help them and also get inventory for myself. So that's what got me really focused on door knocking and what I'm able to do to help the people. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So, what made you decide to help these customers? What was it that you saw, maybe in life experience or, even personal experience that made you realize, hey, these people need help and nobody's helping them. I'm gonna go ahead and put on that Superman shirt and go do that.
Well, I think it just really came from just identifying the situation with some of these people and the situations they were going through. I had got a good understanding of how the process went. And once I understood that, I identified that a lot of these people that were going through these situations were just regular, everyday folks that just didn't understand real estate like I did. And I used my understanding of foreclosures and the process to potentially help them get all the equity out the house so that way they didn't get foreclosed on and leave money on the table. And of course, it gave me a listing. So, I had some work, and I was able to help family create some good relationships and get some referrals. So it was a win-win in my book.
Awesome, awesome. Now, when you started to see and you started to go to these homes, you know, honestly, what a realtor does is they make money based on a house closing, right? But you
Hmm.
didn't do that. Tell us a little bit about that. Tell us what
Well,
was your main purpose to walk in the door, and sometimes the closing the house wasn't the main purpose. What was the main purpose? And give us a little bit of detail. Maybe tell us a story.
when you would meet a family, the first thing is understanding what happened, what's the problem, what are they looking to do, and a lot of times when you start building relationships, they start telling you, and their objective is to save the house. And I've gotten to a point where I understand, well, we've been in front of so many families that let's call the bank, let's get the bank involved. Literally just had a story this week where I door knocked a guy. I want to say Monday, Tuesday. Or it might have been a few days ago. But to make a long story short, he called me back. We set an appointment because he had an auction date up in September. So when I got the guy, I said, hey, I explained who I was. And I said, hey, we can find out. Of course, what do you want to do? Do you want to try and save it? Of course, you want to try and save it. So from that point, we get the parties, the powers to be involved. We called the bank and asked them, hey, he verified the account. What are our options? Do we qualify for modification? Now, let me give you the details of this one because this one was a very unique one. This family had had the house for 3 years and hadn't made a payment in two, right? So we just asked a simple question: did this family qualify for a modification? And with the banks trying to do everything to help them, they had a program available for them to go forward. They just had to answer a few questions, and they took them off the auction block and sent them the paperwork for the modification. So that happened very quickly because once you get people to talk, it's just more of like, okay, let's see what our options are. If we can save it, great. We'll go with the saving route. And if we can't, then let's look at how much equity we can get out the house for you and go that route. In this case, the bank was willing to work with them. And if we never made that phone call, he was just going to let the house get auctioned. So good thing is I came in and was able to talk, create a relationship. And then as we say, okay, let's get the bank on the phone, and then the bank will tell us what we can or can't do, so we can get out of the gray areas and deal with the facts.
Yeah.
So once we got all the facts out, it was pretty self-explanatory. They said he could save it, he could afford the monthly payment now that the troubles are behind him, and he was able to move forward. So it was a to me a great situation because not all of them are sell the house.
Hmm.
Some of them just have to be maybe a little bit more responsible with taking time out to weigh their options instead of running from them.
Yeah.
And what I
Well,
was able to do is help them face the issue.
So
well,
my,
that's
my
that's
question.
something that I had. That's something that I had in mind. The biggest thing that, and I know you were going to ask a question, Neville, but I wanted to ask this first, before you go into asking the question. When you started going to the home, obviously the purpose was um, to save them, right? Either
Yes.
it's by selling the home. You're going to give them the options. My
Hmm.
thing is, what would you say to the general public today about what they need to start doing when they get in situations like this? Like, what's the first step they should take?
Okay, let's make
Oh,
sure everybody's on the same page.
before you answer that question, can you put the screen on the third option so you don't cut us off? Yeah, there
All
you
right.
go.
So in a situation where you're going through some turmoil, stress, weigh your options. Talk to a professional. It's like almost having a lawyer on your side. Talk to a real estate professional so that way you can weigh your options. First, let's weigh out all our facts. Where are you at financially? Let's get the bank on the phone to see if a reinstatement is a possibility, a modification. They'll tell you what they're going to give you. And when you talking with the bank, now a lot of times when I run across these families, they go out and hire an attorney to do something that they can do directly with the bank. I'd rather say you take that money and put it towards the mortgage rather than paying someone to help you, because all we're doing is like counsel. But we're all we're going to do is get the bank on the phone, and the bank's going to tell us our options. The bank's going to tell you whether you qualify for modification, and it's going to be right then. You're not going to have to wait to find out. They're going to
Question,
tell you right. Go ahead.
because you said something really interesting right now, and I want to make sure that the audience understood this. So let's say if somebody's going through this problem, they should just notify a real estate professional rather than notify an attorney. And
Yeah,
explain
because
that.
now the reason being is because now we can really discuss your options on, hey, how are you feeling? What do you want to do? And let's see if that's a possibility by getting the bank involved to see what they will allow us to do. A lot of times people run to an attorney to buy more time to just kick the problem down the road, but don't really come up with an ultimate solution on moving forward. What I'm trying to do is determine what our options are and facilitate the best one that you pick. Now, if I can help save it, the bank's going to be the one that you're going to be working with. All I'm doing is making the call with you and asking the right questions to say, hey, what are our options? What can we do? Matter of fact, you and I have sat down with a family that were in a foreclosure for over 10 years, and the bank was still trying to modify this family. That's why my biggest challenge is getting people to talk about their problems or open up
Do,
about what they're going through.
got it. Question. So the biggest thing about that, right? Like when you think about those families that get shut down, obviously everybody that's going through these kind of problems is going to shut down. What do you say to those families that will help them, guide themselves through this process and then get to someone like you a lot quicker, so they're not waiting 2, 3, or even like the family we went to help that was 10
10
years,
years.
which by the way we got them the
Um,
modification, which
yeah,
was another house saving.
it's more of swallowing the pride and talking to people that can help. I think more you talk about it, the more people like myself who are educated in how to resolve the issue can help you. A lot of times you see people running from the problem opposed to facing the problem, which just only takes away your time to resolve the issue or lay out your options. The less time you give yourself, your options are kind of dictated to you. The more you get in front of it, and let me give you another story where I had a family. We're in this facing the same scenario, and we actually listed the house on the market. The deal fell apart. We actually communicated with the bank's attorney, showing that we had the house listed. We were just looking for the right contract, and by showing that we're trying to resolve the issue, the bank worked with the customer, and that works in the customer's favor because they're not going to get foreclosed, and they're looking for the right deal to sign off on to get their net proceeds to walk away with. And it's just really having the right people work with you that understand how to work with the banks. Everybody doesn't understand the process, so you got to pick the right realtor that knows how to facilitate foreclosures. And that's really where I think the bread and butter on, because you kind of have to become an expert at how do you deal with the bank, how do you deal with these different scenarios, how do you deal with pushback in a respectful way to that be productive towards a transaction.
So you mentioned something where it's like, a lot of these people hire an attorney, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what's the difference between them hiring an attorney and hiring a real estate professional or someone like yourself?
Well, okay, let's talk with the attorney. First off, they have to pay the attorney before anything's done. And only thing that's really going to do is maybe get you an extension that really doesn't address the problem. A lot of times people don't get a chance to really address, hey, first off, is the hardship gone? Because if the hardship is still there, buying more time doesn't do anything but add up more fees,
So,
because a lot of times people
so hold
don't
on,
pay
the attorney
attention.
isn't going to get them out of the problem, or are they like? What's the point of hiring their attorney then?
Well, in my point of view, what people are doing is they're using legal counsel to just buy more time, because if the legal counsel isn't talking about the modification or reinstatement, then the only thing they're doing is buying you more time, and which works against you, because if you read your final judgment, the final judgment also says you're accumulating interest per day on the loan. When you're dealing, the bank's going to charge you the bank fees for the attorney. Anytime that they process that file, they're charging that equity on that account, because they're going to get their money out of the closing. Also, your interest. So as you get more time, the fees are only going up. So when the payoff finally comes, the time that you weren't paying for, they were just taking it out of your equity, and your walkaway is just getting smaller.
That makes sense. So with the people that you go and door knock, with the people that you come across that either you reach out to or they reach out to you, how do you determine who actually like wants your help? How do you determine the people that you spend more time helping as opposed to the ones that maybe you have to walk away from?
I help the people that want to help themselves. People who, I know a lot of it, you got to kind of put it back together. I mean, I've had families that just couldn't get along, and just because of their disagreements, they lost everything, opposed to being able to maximize their property values. And that's where you kind of hate to see it, because you see a family that can't get along and they lose everything because they couldn't agree on anything. And what I try and do is be the mediator, to be like, look, do I have your permission to go work it out with the other side? And I bring everybody on the same page, at least get them to agree on selling and things. That's probably my biggest challenges working with these, is the sometimes when you get there, it's such a mess when it comes to the people you're working with. And those are
My
some of the biggest.
question, my question in regards to that, right? Because you mentioned how you go in and you try to mediate the situation. My question to you is, how much do you charge versus how much does an attorney charge in that situation, in that problem?
Well, that's just really where the relationship is built, because I obviously majority of what I'm doing is counseling, and it's kind of free of charge. Only time I get paid is to actually sell the house. So a lot of times when I do this, I'm building a relationship, and the fact that, hey, in the worst case scenario, we could sell the house. Uh, I feel like when I create these relationships and I'm able to get money out of a house, it just creates relationships. It creates advocates for myself, that people can speak for me when I'm not around and say, hey, he does quality work. He always keeps the client first. I've had people where I could have bought it myself, but I was like, hey, I could get you more money putting it on the market. Now I would have made more money keeping it
Yeah,
myself, but I also knew,
Ed,
I could get her a lot of money out of the market.
yeah,
And
actually, tell that story, because that story is a really interesting story, and I remember me and you went back and forth on that story.
yeah,
Tell that story because I would love
yeah,
the audience to hear that story. I know it's a hurtful story, but it's a good
yeah.
story.
Miss Honor. It was a client I met out and about, hanging out, and they came to me. I used to work with her daughter at AOL back in the days. So
hey, well.
yeah, back in
Ayo, well,
2000,
Sheesh.
when AOL had a call center in Maitland. So to make a long story short, fast forward now, I'm in real estate. They were following me, and they decided that her mom was going through something. They wanted out, and the house was not in the best shape, and she needed a little something. So we worked it out. But I when I was looking it over, I realized that the amount of money she wanted, I could have got more. So I advised her, was like, look, I could buy it for this price right here and we'd be done, but I could also probably get you more money. And the more money we talking was $40,000 more. And we got it in less than 2 weeks. That house closed, cash deal. It actually created a great relationship, because she checks in with me. This is like my extra mom, you could
Yeah,
say,
your
that she
work mom at
calls
this
me,
point.
she checks on me, she texts me. It's one of those clients that really made you feel good, because her scenario was one of those that, she's going through something, but she had made good decisions in the past. The good decision she made was buying property and sitting on it, and not refinancing using her equity. So when she came time to where, daughter's kids are grown, empty nester, she could restart by just using, selling the house using the equity, and she had a pretty good walk away, and she was able to go get herself another car and get herself reestablished. So it was a good feeling, because uh it was the right thing to do for her,
Hmm.
and it was a good relationship that was created from that.
So, so when you're working with these people, right? Is it safe to say like everybody wants your help? Everybody wants to like say fix the situation,
Nah,
or is it like a
a lot of people don't really want to deal with their problems. When I run across a lot of people just don't want to talk because they don't want to address their issues. The biggest thing is just, I'm a very persistent person. I probably some of these people I've approached months at a time. steady following up, and then at some point they finally feel comfortable enough to say, okay, let's talk. What can you do to help me? The biggest challenge is getting over their comfortability and them talking about what they're going through, feeling, I guess, vulnerable about that. But, just one of those things that, you know, I've come from I don't want to say I struggled, but we had some tough times growing up. So, I'm okay with dealing with tough situations. And a lot of mine are outside the box where I'm doing outside of realtor activities to just get stuff done. I mean, I've always been that type of realtor where I identify, like, okay, I got to buy this guy a phone, prepaid phone, because I can't come over here to talk to him every day.
Yeah.
These are things that you identify dealing with the client that, hey, like I got a disabled client that I'm dealing with a probate. So every time I got to get stuff done, I helped her with her Section 8. I helped her with all the paperwork for everything. I go to her because she's disabled. These are things that I pick up that I identify in a transaction that it's not really a part of my responsibility, but if I don't do it, the transaction doesn't move. So I identify the situation to understand what more I have to do to make this work. Whether it's me inserting myself to do the little stuff, whether it's me having to take care of Section 8, whether it's me, whatever I got to do to make a deal work outside of real estate activities is what real estate is really about.
I like that you actually said that, doing what you need to do to make the deal work, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes we have our list of what the responsibilities of a realtor is, right?
Mm-hmm.
How often do we stick to that list 100%?
I was going out of business trying to stick to that list.
You can't. You have to go above and beyond every single time.
Because it became what I did, because I would identify the situation and I'd understand, okay, I've had a listing where the lights were cut out. Okay, let's do an addendum. I'll pay the light. We'll take it out the net proceeds. We can keep the house listed because we need lights for the inspections and stuff like that. So these are things that a realtor could ignore, but it's a partnership. If we can't get this house sold properly, I can't get paid and you can't get the equity. We're all stuck. So in order to keep things moving, sometimes you have to insert your money, your time, and your effort to get deals done. And I've identified that a long time ago.
Hey, is it true? It's funny because I heard I heard there was a rumor that you were out here mowing lawns and stuff like that. Just want to set the record straight.
I would identify that in order to get this house sold and get the amount of money we want to get, we need to make the house look a certain way.
So who in this room has not painted a client's house yet?
I've painted rooms.
I've painted houses.
Lawns.
Yeah, I think we've all done it.
Company. I used to go. There was a lady that her husband died, and it was more of a mental thing because they lived there together, and she was literally right across the street from me. So every day after I would get done working, I would go by and help prep the house, and she would talk to me. We would listen to some of his music, and I'd paint a room, or I'd help move stuff to get the house ready to list. And it to me, those are the special listings that you don't do it all for the money. You do it for the impact you have on the people. Yep. And I think when I identify, she reminded me of my grandmother, and their family's not close. It's my neighbor. Why not? Mm-hmm. It was a great scenario because I can keep her up to date. I feel good about what I'm doing. It was all in efforts to get the house sold. And if I didn't do it, the house would have took longer to get sold.
Was she the one that somebody broke into the house when she went out to dinner with some friends?
No, that was another client that lived on the backside. That was Miss Tucker, which is my other client mom that I have. I've got a few client moms that adopted me over the years that I've been able to
tell that story, because that's a really warming story. Like, that really talks about the difference between you being a La Rosa agent or just being another agent at any other firm. That shows who we are and how we project to our community's family, passion, and growth. Tell that story.
Ms. is a very special lady. She had a big old house in the back of the neighborhood, 3,400 square feet. It was just huge, 2-story. And as a matter of fact, this is around the time where we're still around 200,000. So we had this one under 300,000. I think it was even higher, 340. But make a long story short, big house right across the street from the school. One night, somebody broke into her house. She comes home and she calls me. I literally right down the street. So I get in the car, go
So you had to play
right down
Batman.
there. So yeah, I'm playing security now. So
Yeah.
me and the neighbors sitting out with her as the authorities came and stuff. And it was a moment because, you know, she was my neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
And of course my client, I hadn't sold the house next door yet, but I ended up selling that house. But you know, when you deal, you know, it's a lot of times when you're selling property, you're talking to the people a whole lot. And we were talking a lot. Every time that I had to show the property, she wanted me there because she lived alone.
Yeah.
So you just do what it takes to identify, hey, what does it take for you to feel comfortable for me to perform for you? And that was the situation. So that's what made us bond. So literally to this day, I go, she bought a house in DeBerry. Every time I go, we sit down, she shows me all the stuff she did to the house. Matter of fact, Miss Tucker put me in her will. So in the case that she ever passes,
Wow.
I'll get a call from her people to liquidate. And that was a special thing because when she told me, I was like, wow, she's a real special lady. She took care of orphan kids, and now she's just living her best life. So shout out to Miss Tucker. Love you.
Yeah.
Thank you for business.
Yeah, I'll tell you this about Miss Tucker. So one day I call Ed, he's in the car with Miss Tucker, and she had pretty much everything amazing to say about him. And after we were done with that, I went back to Ed. I said, see, that's what it's all about. That is what it's all about. Building that relationship is what it's
Yeah.
all about. So
And by the way, I met
yeah,
her
man.
door knocking. This is when I kind of became Lifting Lee. Is I used to every afternoon I would just go door knock every door through the neighborhood. And I remember Miss Clarkson was the one that pointed me in her direction. Miss Clarkson knew everything about everybody in the neighborhood. She's like, yeah, that lady's thinking about selling. So I go over there. Yeah, she's thinking about selling. She's just waiting for the school. See, she was doing the orphans at the time. So all the rooms she had filled with kids going to school. She was a foster mom. So she was like, look, soon as school's out, I don't want this big house no more. I want to downsize and get the equity and go. So I was able to lift that house and actually help her buy another house the same day. So that was a great deal because once we got her under contract, I was able to find another house, one showing, got her. It was actually under contract at the time, and it fell apart during the inspection,
Wow.
and we jumped right in, and
Yeah.
it's done deal. So, and that was, you know, it's just one of those things that door knocking, building relationships, continuing the relationships. Because every time she finds or hears somebody talking about real estate, I get a call,
Yeah.
I get a text, call this person, talk to them, and she's just one of those people that make you feel good about helping other people.
Yeah.
Because they never forget. Anytime they hear real estate, they call you. She's always commenting, liking videos. So she's just very special lady to me.
She's 100% a support for
Yeah.
you. Question in regards to the way that you handle her situation, the way you handle most situations. And I know it's an amazing feeling because we all feel it. We're all realtors, right? But if you had to say what is one of the most special things that you like to do with every single customer that you know that you say, you know, this is not particularly special to any one customer. This is just something I do. What would you say that trait would be?
Be personal, get to know people on a personal level, being able to talk through ups and downs, whatever thing may going on. It's a this is a business that we won't have. You don't have anything without the relationship, and I pride myself with the relationships I've had, the people who've embraced me. You know, these are your whys. Like, you remember some of these things, and you're reminding me of some of these stories because it's been so many years since some of these things have happened, and you continue to evolve. I think that's kind of where we are today. With before I was doing door to door, now I'm going specifically to specific situations that I feel that I can really help because of my understanding of real estate, my patience with people, the ability that I have to go above and beyond that some just won't do. that I look at it like it's a part of the job and it goes with the business.
Awesome. Awesome. Neville, man, we got a great one here, man. We got a great one here.
Absolutely. He reminded me on like, what kind of drives you on your day to day in this business, because if you just focus on the selling the house and just getting your commission, I feel like you're just gonna fall apart. Like,
Well, the relationships, because obviously that's the end game, right? But in the middle, on the way, is the bonds and the turmoils that come up and how you manage them. I mean, solve for X. What's the problem? What are we trying to fix? And that keeps everything moving. And then like a lot of times stuff comes up, liens on the house, and then you go create. You just find out more. I've never accepted no. I
yeah,
think Ray understands that. I'm one of those ask more questions. Hey, well, why is this? Why is that? And then you find a way, and that's kind of been how my real estate careers work. Because even with some of these deals, they've come up with liens and the title company. Now I got to learn how to do title work,
yeah,
and then you learn like, hey, this isn't a proper lien because of this, and these come from the relationships that we get from our peers, such as probate attorneys, lenders. You start asking better questions as you've been doing this because your level of understanding goes up. And that's the difference between different realtors, because this experience gives me different understandings of the business on different ways I can actually help you. And that's the reason why you want to really shop your realtor, to be able to understand, is your realtor a problem solver? Or is your realtor just somebody that hands over
just a
all your
pencil
equity?
pusher.
And yeah, it's like, okay, I could negotiate, or I could push for what you asking me for, or I could just say, I don't think they're going to do that. But I'm one of those realtors that known to push the envelope, get more than I thought I could get. I've even surprised myself.
Yeah,
Like I remember one guy was like, hey, I think we should ask for a $10,000 credit. I was like, all right, let me get my poker face ready. Let me practice this.
yeah,
And then you go negotiate $10,000 on something you didn't think you was able to do. I kind of surprise myself sometimes,
yeah.
Man, that's why I remember, like, hey, sometimes you just got to be optimistic and just push it, or find the angle, find the way, and stay relevant. Because I think real estate's evolving and changing, because it's not the same that I got in 2017. Rates are different, situations are different. Orlando has a unique market where we're one of the counties that are digital, where people can shop in Orlando remotely because we're automated.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I've met some of my investors, is they're buying in their market that they need someone in. So, this is a shout out to anyone that is looking for a good realtor to work with. Is I'm one of those realtors that are real hands-on, knowledgeable, take time to understand my clients' needs. So if you're looking for, hey, how do I pick the right realtor? Interview them, make sure they understand your needs and understand how to make it happen for you.
What
Every real
questions should they be asking?
About experience, problem solving, relationships, resources, uh, how to problem solve. How do you what happens when the appraisal doesn't come back right? What's the plan B and the plan C on everything? Because I think as realtors, we should be thinking ahead. And anytime I'm listing a property, there's a few things I'm going to make sure I if they're concerning, because especially if we're at top market value, we need to talk about what if the house doesn't appraise, and then make sure that I prepare you for every scenario, so I don't set you up to fail. Because listing a house is one thing, but getting top market value is another. And a good experienced realtor anybody could tell you, I could do this and do that, but can they back it up? I think with the market changing, understanding the market is very important, because the values aren't there like they were 2 months ago. So
Yep.
if you don't understand the market and explain it to people where they understand what to expect, you're going to have some frustrated people.
Mm-hmm.
Looking into 2024, the end of 2024 and 2025, what do you think? What's ahead for Listing Lee? Is Listing Lee going to stay the brand, or is it Saving Lee? Saving Lee? What are
Well,
you going to do?
I'm going to continue to work on helping as many people, building my capital up. Of course, I have a long-term plan to build some rooming houses where I could supply housing for people on an individual level. That's a niche market that I've gotten involved in that actually is a part of my bread and butter that I want to expand on, so I can kind of somewhat put, I don't know, it's a different type of housing because kind of going back when me and my daughter's mom broke up, I found myself renting a room. And right there, I knew what my calling was. I decided to buy a house and be a person that rents the rooms out to people. And by doing that, I was able to get ahead. So when I wasn't selling real estate, I was still able to get by because of the rooms I was renting. And now that the rents are so high, I can get $900 a room. And these are just different avenues that it's a game within the game.
So you're
Everybody needs
making
house.
money. So you're making money while you're helping people.
Yes. And
In
helping
essence.
myself. So I was able to.
So
I was in a
everybody's.
where I couldn't afford the house anymore, and I knew I emptied my 401k, and it was a tough spot. This is actually before I got in real estate. I got laid off. I bought the house February 11th, got laid off February 25th of next year, and I remember because I had one room rented at the time, and when I got laid off, I didn't want to go back to getting a regular job anymore. I decided that enough was enough. I'm tired of starting over, and I wanted to become an entrepreneur. So what I did is I took all my bills and I divided them amongst the rooms left, and that's what I rented the rooms for. And that was back in 2011. And I've been doing the same thing since. And now now that we got the Airbnbs, it's a market now. Of course, my rates are going pretty good, and I've been able to do some pretty good things, and I'm able to help people and help myself at the same time. And I feel like this is the exit strategy to real estate for me. If
Awesome.
Provide a housing platform for individuals that could rent a room and get themselves back on track.
Awesome.
So,
question for you. So if one of our viewers or consumers wanted to get a hold of you, where can they contact you, or where do they go to look for you?
Well, you can give me a call on my cell phone. It's 407-535-1768. Of course, you can go on Facebook, Instagram, Edward Lee, or you can look me up on Instagram at Lifting Lee and contact me. We could definitely sit down, chop it up, talk about my experiences, what I can potentially do to help you with real estate, or if you're looking to get in. I've done mentoring. So there's a lot of different ways that we can connect.
Awesome. So you help people actually get into real estate as well?
Yeah, I do. Not as much as I used to, but I have taken time out to let people shadow, let people do ride-alongs because I do. I teach anybody, but this ain't for everybody. We all know that. And I'll let people decide whether or not this is something they want to do. And if they want to partner, we can always talk about partnerships.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for watching. Neville, do you have anything else you want to add to the show?
No, I think we covered everything. Honestly, that was some great insight on just how you're able to get business, how you're able to help people. I loved it. And just kind of like a little tidbit on like what's your passion behind it. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, it was a way to, I was in a bad situation. If I wouldn't have shared my house, I'd have lost my house. And because of that, I'm very thankful. The Lord gave me a house. So me being able to share it, giving them people a chance to get on their feet at a reasonable rate, it's a feeling that I can't describe. And I've had people that rented from me that, shout out to David Sutcliffe, previous client, good friend of mine. He did it. He went from a roommate to an owner.
Oh, wow.
And I was able to help him. We were able to make things work between us. I gave him, hey, this is what I think you should be doing. And he went and invested in himself and bought his own property. So it does work. Some just never get it. Some will, some won't. Mm-hmm. So what? You help the ones that want to be helped and set the example. That's basically who I am.
Listing Lee right here.
Yeah.
The one and only Listing Lee. So thank you guys for watching. Remember to subscribe, put your comments down below. Look for Listing Lee. His phone number will be at the bottom, right? So please make sure that you understand that there is a way out of foreclosure. There are agents out there that care. As you can see, there's one here in the room. Make sure that you understand that there is a way out. The best way to do it is push right away to get with a realtor, not a attorney. We would have been going for hours about why you shouldn't do that. but I'm letting you know, it's the most inexpensive and most effective recourse is a real estate professional. So with that being said, thank you for being on the show, Ed. Thank you
Thank you for having
for giving us all that information, and I love those stories. Those stories still touch me to this day, even though some of them were, 3, 4, 5 years ago. But let's rock and roll, man. Let's continue. Let's finish the year strong. Let's help as many families as we can, and let's go into 2025 with the same purpose. We're just helping as many people as we can and building as many relationships that we can. So from the Ray and Nev show, thank you so much.
Yep. Yeah. Until next time.
Till next time.
Until next
Thank
time.
you for having me.
Yes.